Hi everyone, welcome back to the Dish on Aging. This is the tip of the day. Today is Thursday. Today is September 30th, 2021. For those of you who are meeting me for the first time, my name is Dr. Maureen Sweeney. I am a clinical psychologist. I specialize in geriatric psychology, and I practice here in Bensalem, Pennsylvania. So as I am taping tonight, it is just after 5 o'clock. I don't know how we are with the infrastructure bill. I'm going to be talking about that today because that will have a big impact on retirement and programs and funding that is available in the community for seniors. This will have a huge impact. Also, I was a little upset to see today a headline like 50 million seniors are going to lose their Social Security checks if the government goes bankrupt at midnight tonight. I don't think they should put a scare tactic headline like that out, even though the statement is true. The bill that needs to go through the Senate and the House of Representatives and signed by the President, it's making its way through so that the debt ceiling extension is expected to be signed for the next 3 months. The other words, kind of, I know the phrase, it's true, kicking the can down the road, but the government won't run out of money because the American government, federal government, will be allowed to continue to borrow money so that everybody's Social Security checks go in the mail. And just so you all know, there is no elected official in the United States who will allow 50 million retired people, meaning 50 million voters, to miss a Social Security check. So I don't want anybody losing sleep about that tonight. What we may need to lose sleep about is how we're moving forward with this infrastructure bill. I was talking with somebody this week, and I want to talk to you about what means testing means, okay? Means testing, I was listening to one of the representatives. I should know her name, I don't. It's one of the women in Congress who is one of the squad. It wasn't AOC, it was one of the other three. And she was on television this weekend, and she was talking about means testing. And this is related to what I was talking about. It's all related indirectly to fiscal or financial responsibility. It's also related to what programs are available, not just to seniors, but people of every age group in America. What means testing is talking about right now for the Medicaid program, Medicaid's a federal program, the states run it and set the rules. And so here in Pennsylvania, if you want to apply for state Medicaid, that'll help you with your insurance copays. You'll qualify for food stamps or SNAP benefits. You will qualify for help with your copays for medication, and you'll unrelated, the senior housing, subsidized senior housing, that goes by, okay, getting these news flashes coming up. I want to see if it was about the debt ceiling. But anyway, so basically Medicaid or social programs for the poor here in Pennsylvania, they require means testing, which means, I love the phrase somebody said, are they going to want to look at my bank accounts? And means testing means yes. They look at your bank accounts, they look at everything, your investments, they look at your life insurance policies, they look at what property do you own. You have to be really poor, like down to your last $2,000 in the bank to qualify. And that's the way that it's always been. And by the way, many widowed women who are homemakers who live in Pennsylvania, as soon as they're retired and widowed, you meet criteria for Medicaid. Unless, I don't know, you had a particularly wealthy, if you were a trust fund baby, you were born into money, that's going to be more an exception than a rule. But it's going to be many, if not most, more than half retirees in Pennsylvania who middle class, hardworking people, that's who is going to qualify for Medicaid in retirement. And so that requires means testing. Now, what one of the members of the squad was saying, and the squad is going to be ultra-liberal, and those are the liberal Democrats who are opposed to Nancy Pelosi because they don't think Nancy Pelosi is spending enough money on this multi-trillion-dollar infrastructure package. So that's the direction where the squad's coming from. So this squad member said, I don't want any more means testing for social programs. I want anybody who walks in and requests social programs, I want them to get it. So I was explaining to someone that's really good for this one particular person, because I was talking to somebody, but I said, I don't know if it's good for everyone, but it's good for somebody I was talking to this week, because this was somebody who has a nest egg. I have no idea how much it is. Let's say it's 50,000. She has a nest egg of 50,000 hypothetically, and she has that earmarked as an inheritance for her 5 beautiful, beautiful grandkids. Just wonderful kids. She loves them dearly. Here's what the problem is. She's become widowed in the last year. She was a homemaker for most of her married life. She sold her house, and that's how she has the nest egg. And now she's really struggling. She can't go to lunch with friends. She goes to the supermarket, and she has to be on a real tight budget. And because she has 50,000 sitting in the bank, she doesn't qualify for any Medicaid programs. Medicaid says we can't give you food stamps when you have 50,000 sitting in the bank. And of course, implicit in that, you can't give your inheritance to people before you die. You still won't qualify for food stamps, because one of the questions is, did you give any of your money away in the previous however many years? And so this person, because of what's important to them, and what's most important to this person is leaving an inheritance to the grandkids. Many of us can relate to that. Here's what the problem is that when you have means testing social programs, they're going to look at your bank accounts. So I was explaining to this person, if the squad gets their way, and the squad's probably not going to get their way, but if the squad gets their way, then you can have as much money sitting in the bank account, and then you just walk in and you apply. One of the things that I loved about what this squad member said on television that I don't think the world understands is and it's actually correct what she's saying. She said many people cannot collect from these social programs like food stamps and Medicaid and getting help for seniors in the home, because you'll have somebody sent out to your house. You'll take 3 hours trying to fill out the application, and the application's still not complete. She said the applications are too cumbersome. Yes, indeed, they are. They're federal applications, and they have to be done just so. The T's crossed, the I's dotted, and thorough review. You don't even know it. They put your social security number and your date of birth into a computer base, and they probably search the dark web for any bank accounts you might have. And one of the, I joke, but I shouldn't. One of the things families find out about is they find out that there was money left to them last year that they didn't know about. They had a long-lost uncle who left them a $20,000 inheritance that's sitting in a bank account out in Kentucky for them to pick up. And when they're applying for Medicaid's searching their social security number and then finds out about it. So they're like, okay, why didn't somebody else or anybody else tell us? We would not have applied if we knew we had that. So anyway, when they do a Medicaid application and it gets done in Harrisburg, if you fill it out here, the local area on aging will send you out a caseworker to help you fill it out if you need help with it. You send all your financial documents and then some to Harrisburg. And then a paper pusher gets out the magnifying glass, puts your social security number, date of birth, who even knows what computers, to find out what your assets really are. And so that's means testing, and it is cumbersome. And maybe we need to fix that, I don't know. But here's what the good news is if the squad gets their way, and this is what I explained to the person I was talking to this week, then you'll qualify for food stamps, while at the same time having your nest egg in the bank earmarked for your grandkids as an inheritance after you die. And this is someone who's retired, but they're in relatively good health. They'll probably be around for many, many more years. And right now they're really barely making it, living paycheck to paycheck. So we kind of talked about that philosophy, this person's philosophy. The grandkids are like, Grandma, I said, what would your grandkids think if they knew you weren't going to lunch with your friends anymore because you're saving money for their retirement? She said, oh gosh, I can't tell anybody in my family. She said, I can't even tell anybody in my family I have that bank account because they would be upset. They would want me to get the eyeglasses I need, the dentures I need to go out with my friends socially. And they would say they're all working. All 5 of the grandkids have fantastic jobs. They're working, making great incomes. And they would appreciate that I was trying to put money aside for them for retirement, but they would say, spend that money on what you need. By the way, again, a hypothetical situation, this is not frivolous spending that this person is refraining from. This is actual needed for quality and health in life. I mean, if you need dentures, dentures have a big impact on nutrition, which have a big impact on health, has a big impact on quality of life. So these are the topics that, you get, I don't know, I know we have 50 senators, I don't even know, 200 and some House of Representatives. And this infrastructure bill is all about this idea. How much does the taxpayer pay? How much does the individual person take responsibility for their own planning and savings? Is it available to some based on income? And if your income is like $200 or $5 too much, you're, sorry, you're out of luck. Or is it available to everyone? And it's going to be the difference between Joe Manchin going for a 1.5 trillion with a T and the squad 3.5 trillion with a T. So what I'm talking about is, by the way, if this 3.5 trillion infrastructure goes by, we will have a completely different society in terms of senior services, housing, who qualifies, how we go through it. Some people say we'll have a lot of happy seniors. Yes, we will. But even if the 3.5 trillion goes by and we have a lot of happy seniors, the reality is that no matter how many trillions we go for with an infrastructure bill, we're going for a bill with a T with trillions. We're going to have major tax increases that go with this. And by the way, as we're coming towards, tomorrow is October 1st in terms of the pandemic, big day in terms of every time you go to the doctor, everyone who's in that building who works there is required to be fully vaccinated or to be vaccinated, or they're not permitted, they can't go to work, they're not permitted in the building. And that includes, somebody works for a linen company that's bringing clean towels into the hospital. Everybody that works for that company as a vendor of a hospital or a nursing home also has to be fully vaccinated. So I'm thinking of tomorrow as a turning point in our pandemic. We'll see if it actually is, but in my own mind, that's how I'm looking at it. So the other thing I'm noticing is that we have to prepare ourselves in the next year, separate from what happens with this infrastructure bill. I was at an eye doctor this past weekend getting needed eyeglasses and contact lenses and eye exam because my vision is really poor. And so that's just been a part of my life every year for most of my life. And wow. And of course, most insurance plans don't pay for eye exams or glasses or contact lenses. Our price is going up. And I think that that's related to it is so much more expensive to run a business when you have to separate patient appointments a distance apart. You have to sanitize between each patient all of the towels and cleaning supplies and more or less staff. It adds to the cost of doing business. Also, if you have employees who can't come into work for 2 weeks because somebody they lived with contracted COVID, then you're still paying that employee's salary when that employee is not at work. All of this, I think, is contributing to the higher costs of doing business. So prepare and brace yourselves as we're going into almost to the end of the pandemic and then post-pandemic life. Listen to what I said in Monday's tip of the day about financial literacy. Wow, we're going to have to probably start adjusting some of our monthly budgets with prices going up in terms of everything we need. There's also a news story out of car manufacturing, I think Detroit, where they're saying, we've been talking about the last year and a half trouble manufacturing cars because lack of computer chips, and we're here to say it's so much worse than we've been talking about. And that the reality is that we don't, there's a lot of materials that are just not available. We just can't produce these cars. And there's going to start to become, they didn't say this, but there's going to start to become a demand for cars. There aren't going to be enough. And prices are going to start going up. And what's happening with the car manufacturing plants, what they've done over the summer is they've had to furlough and say, we're just going to shut down. We don't have enough material. We're going to shut down. And then when it's summertime, they can say to their employees, okay, we're going to shut for 2 weeks. Everybody just use that as your vacation time, and then we don't have to worry about any missed paychecks. And this is going to start to play out. I heard the latest material, we all know lumber for building homes has been in short supply. I've talked about motorhomes. They've become very popular during the pandemic. They don't have the supplies needed to manufacture new motorhomes. And I heard today paint. As I've put painting the outside of my house on hold because of our water conservation request, I'm like, I don't want to power wash my house when we're on a request to conserve water, but I do think that's passed. So painting has been going to be my outside painting is going to be my one of my October projects. And they're like, oh my gosh, now paint's going to be in short supply. So I think in the year or two, as we get to the other side of the pandemic, getting to the other side of the pandemic is going to be really positive. But I think we're all going to have to figure out, as Americans, we're not used to going into a store and they just don't have the product we want. We just think, well, we'll just go to their competitor on the other side of town and we'll get what we want. And so I think we could have quite an adjustment in the year post-pandemic where prices are higher, and who even knows what that's going to do for the economy. And it's not just one or two things. Oh, did you hear this week? The state liquor stores in Pennsylvania have started to ration. And I don't go to the state. I don't, buy liquor. And I thought, oh my gosh. And by the way, 2020 Pennsylvania liquor stores, banner years. They sold more liquor and therefore had more tax revenue from the liquor stores than any other year in history. So I guess Americans were drinking more liquor during the pandemic than any other time. And but the rationed liquors, it's not the whole liquor store. It's only, I don't know, I try to look up. I'm like, my gosh, what's being rationed? I guess it's some of the top shelf liquors, and it has to do with supply. The people who make these top shelf liquors, or if they're coming in from overseas, real hard time with getting the ships from overseas, because remember, even though here in the United States we have gotten the vaccinations out, we're doing really good here in Pennsylvania with like at least 80% of eligible adults with one vaccination. Worldwide, look at the continents of India, Africa, and China. Vaccinations are not anywhere near as available as they are here in the United States. And so a lot of the materials we need are coming from those continents and have to get across the seas on the ships to get here. So we're going to need a lot of patience as we go in that first year or two after the pandemic. So I'm letting everybody know that so we can start to prepare now. Knowledge is power. That was used in a phrase that was used in a derogatory way in the news this week. When I'm using the term knowledge is power, I'm using it as a psychology concept that if we know what's around that corner, that's power, because then we can plan for it. So that's what I wanted to put out today, conversation about. Nobody, I can guarantee you, I don't even know if the debt ceiling has been risen yet, but I can guarantee you no seniors will be missing any Social Security checks related to the government shutting down. The government is not going to shut down tonight. No elected official is going to let that happen. This infrastructure bill is something to watch, because if it goes through, the higher the trillions, the better for services that are going to be available to seniors living in the community, particularly low-income seniors, and potentially all of us when we retire, regardless of our income. That's the idea of the $3.5 trillion plan. And if it all falls apart, we're all going to be limping along. The good news is if it falls apart, we don't have to worry about raising taxes. We just have to worry about everything else. So I don't know, 6 one, half of the dozen of the other. But so keep an eye on how that moves forward as we're thinking about our retirement. Also, just know, let's keep an eye on our lives are going to be different. The good news is we got through the pandemic with our health. Let's stay optimistic with that. And so the tip of the day is just keep your eyes open on what to expect and how our lives will be different as we move forward post-pandemic, and prepare yourself to be paying more for pretty much everything that you need that you go out to buy. Okay, thanks a lot. I will see you Monday. Monday will be October 4th. Okay, see you then. Have a nice weekend. Bye-bye.